Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching the brand new edition of India's World with your host Kriti Mishra. The sixth meeting of the India-Nepal Joint Commission was co-chaired by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Nepal, Pradeep Kumar Gyawali, in New Delhi on 15th January. The Joint Commission comprehensively reviewed all aspects of multifaceted cooperation between the two countries and explored ways to further strengthen the traditionally close and friendly ties. Both sides discussed several areas of cooperation, including the areas of connectivity, economy and trade, power, oil and gas, water resources, political and security issues, border management, development partnership, tourism, culture, education, and capacity building. The close cooperation between the two sides in combating COVID-19 also in the region was noted. Nepal congratulated India on the remarkable success in production of Covishield and Covaxin in India and requested for early provision of vaccines to Nepal. And to analyze India-Nepal relations, I'm joined by Manjeev Singh Puri, former ambassador, Professor Swarn Singh, chairperson, Centre for International Politics, Organisation and Disarmament, JNU, and Major General Ashwini Kumar Sivaj, retired defence expert. Welcome to Sabha Television, all of you. And Ambassador Puri, coming to you first. The major takeaways for you from the sixth meeting of the India-Nepal Joint Commission.
Kriti, thank you very much. And first of all, to you, Rajya Sabha Television and my co-panelists, a very happy new year. I'm also very happy that we are meeting today, just as the Honorable Prime Minister has unrolled the COVID vaccine drive in India. Now, Nepalese seem to have chosen well, and so did we, because the Joint Commission took place right on the eve of this Red Letter Day. Without any doubt, obtaining the COVID vaccine was an important element of the Joint Commission for the Nepalese. And while I'm not sure what we've been able to say in terms of delivery schedules, etc., I'm sure we've registered their request and assured them that they will be high on our priority of providing vaccines to our friends. And I think that was a very important element. Now, the Joint Commission traditionally reviews bilateral projects. And over the last 1 odd year, we have had quite a lot of movement on that. The train line between Jaishankar and Janakpur has become operational. One more integrated check post in Viratnagar has become operational. All these things, I'm sure, were reviewed and looked at positively in terms of our relations. I think the statement mentioned that there is a talk of taking the oil pipeline, which was inaugurated towards the end of 2019, from Ablegganj in an east-west direction towards Chitwan, which will be another major breakthrough in terms of connectivity and in terms of building the India-Nepal economic ties. Now, my understanding of the Joint Commission was that this was a continuation of the high-level exchanges which have been taking place in Nepal in the last few months between India and Nepal. It began with the Army Chief's visit, the Foreign Secretary went there, and now we have the Joint Commission. This is a good augury per se. And coming after the fact that there was a kind of social distancing, if I may use a COVID term, between India and Nepal in the first few months of this particular year, it's glad that we are rebooting and retaking ahead the fact that we are in a close relationship, the largest possible relationship. And in this relationships, there are ups and downs, there are various things that happen, but we need to take things forward because this is in the interest of both the countries. And more than that, it continues to cement the most important ties, which are the ties between the people of India and the people of Nepal. So I'm very happy that the meeting happened, and I'm sure it will lead to further things, further strengthening of relationships at the higher levels and between the two countries, taking economic ties, people-to-people ties further.
All right, so those were the major highlights. Professor Singh, India has been extending its hands to long-time partner Nepal by supplying various medicines like hydroxychloroquine, paracetamol, and equipment, including testing kits and ventilators to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. How are these measures firming up India-Nepal ties?
Definitely, I think in this recent Joint Commission meet, other than the usual issues that Ambassador Puri just mentioned, two issues became particularly significant in underlining the proximity and friendship. One was the need that Nepal has today in procuring vaccines for dealing with still rising infections in Nepal. So they have made a request for up to about 20 million doses as grant, and then they plan to buy further vaccines from both the Serum Institute of India and the Bharat Biotech. So I think that's an immediate urgent need that Nepal has, and they trust that India would help them with this. And India is, of course, very capable. About 60% of the vaccines globally is produced in India, and our Serum Institute has really doubled their capacity to 100 million doses to be produced every month. They are aiming to produce about 2.5 billion this year. So India is quite capable of supplying to various other countries, but there are many contenders. We have to supply to Bhutan, promise of 30 million doses to Bangladesh lies there. Brazil was in fact saying they are sending an aircraft to pick up 2 million doses, but India is still choosing as to how to focus on domestic issues first. Second immediate and very important issue in this meeting was that of border management. You'll recall that last May and June, that demarcation given in the new map had created enormous tension on both sides. And I think a clear articulation that Foreign Minister Pradeep Gyawali made in Delhi in Indian Council of World Affairs was to underline that they give priority to discussing with India now how to do better border management. But of course, he clearly said that these are issues that have to be first dealt, without going public. That means there is a certain intensity being attached, and reports are saying that Nepal today is interested in accelerating and giving some speed to these mechanisms meeting to resolve border issues, so that they don't become kind of a limitation in expanding cooperation, particularly to deal with the pandemic issue. So to me, I think if you look at what was happening in May and June and what happened by various visits from India of the RAW chief, army chief, followed by the foreign secretary himself taking 2,000 doses of a vial, this is a culmination of a complete change and a positive spin to the relationship. And therefore, I think it marks an important event in the bilateral relations. India is very capable in supporting Nepal in situation of pandemic today. And I think that is going to be advantage India in really building that rapprochement with Kathmandu as we go from here.
All right, so you made two very important points about border issue and also about vaccine diplomacy. Major General Siraj, border issue was discussed. Way ahead for the resolution. And also, do you think that India has a decisive edge as vaccine becomes major tool for diplomacy?
Absolutely, Kriti. 2-3 issues stand out very clearly. One is, you see, what happened is the present government is a caretaker government as far as Nepal is concerned. As it is, the parliament has been already dissolved by KP Sharma Oli, and this is a caretaker government. The relation between the present government and China is not to the best of it. And that is the time when he is coming to us, and now possibly our relation should improve. It is a win-win situation both for India and Nepal. That point must be understood very categorically. Now, as far as a border management issue is concerned, the controversy which has arisen between a road which is going from Lippu Lake to Dharchula, once that was operationalized, then this problem has come into limelight. But remember that we are holding this Lippu Lake from 1962 onward. And we are very clear that the Nepal and India border is on Kali Nadi. And east of Kali Nadi, Nepal, and west of the Kali Nadi is as far as India is concerned. Now, we have already told that Limpu Dhera, Kalapani, and Lippu Lake, all three are of the west of this river, and hence they are part of India. But certainly we are ready to discuss. No differences should become a dispute. There is, by and large, our border between Nepal and India is settled, except two places. One is the present one, which has about 400 square kilometer, and the another was Susta, which is approximately 140 square kilometer, which need to be resolved by sitting together. As far as the COVID-19 is concerned, you see, this is a game changer as far as India, Nepal, and other neighboring countries are concerned, because we are a superpower in pharmaceutical. We are one of those first countries to produce even indigenously the COVID-19, especially the Covishield. So we can give it not only to Nepal, to other countries also. This will send a very good message. Now, the point which is very clear in this is, why has the Nepal not gone for the Chinese vaccine? The reason is simple. It is got threefold. One is that the Chinese vaccine has got a 73 shortfalls and drawbacks, and which are very serious nature. And the second thing is, no one believes Chinese, as seriously as it is required. And third thing is very costly. But they're dependent on India. It's a reliable, it is safe, it is cheaper. That is what it is, India is. So therefore, I suppose that India-Nepal relations are on the upswing. We have to be very practical in handling Nepal. That big brother attitude should not come at all. We are an equal partner. They are a sovereign nation, and we should never give this feeling to them, because they are very sensitive to it. Now, other issue which is there is that, remember that whatever projects which we are doing in Nepal, these have to be completed in time. There is a delivery deficit. And second thing is, the quality has to improve. If we don't do that, today you see, you find Raksur to Kathmandu railway line is to go, then Siliguri to Jhapa, the petroleum line has to go. All these has to come in time. The Pancheshwar multi-project, which is there, is also still not been completed. So we have taken a lot of work, development work in Nepal, but what we lack is we are not able to deliver in time, and the quality is not as good as the Chinese is. If we have to beat the Chinese, remember the Chinese want that they must influence Nepal, and India's influence in Nepal should reduce. And this you can only do that by, thinking that we have got old ties, cultural, historical,
Yes.
political, religious, and military to military ties, which are deep, comprehensive, and multi-directional, will not suffice unless we start producing, on ground. As on today, you need to be producing results on ground. Otherwise, China in a big way, Trans-Himalaya multi-directional connectivity network is going to become a ground reality in next 15 to 20 years. The Chinese are coming in a big way. It may not help Nepal, because Nepal is a poor country. They are in a debt trap as far as China is concerned, but it will help China, and they will try to get the market of India by making this Trans-Himalaya multi-dimensional connectivity network. So overall, what I can say that India has to be very practical, realistic, and maintain good relation with Nepal, because India and Nepal has got a religion which is of Reti and Beti ke riste, and that must flower from here and must bloom up and go from strength to strength.
As you said, that no difference should become a dispute, and roti and beti ka rishta. And you also talked about two important points, the political turmoil and the Chinese influence. Let me take that to Ambassador Puri. Ambassador Puri, how are Nepal's political developments expected to impact India? And specifically, we do have concerns on China's growing footprints in Nepal.
Kriti, I think we need to understand a few things, and General Saab has very rightly used to all of these. Look, it is obviously of our interest that the Chinese involvement in Nepal, especially its political involvement, etc., remains in a sense limited and private. That's not saying anything which everybody doesn't talk about, etc. But we also need to understand that the Nepalese have an old understanding of Nepal. They have a 1400 kilometers border with China, and their understanding of how to manage that relationship very often, and indeed in the past too, has been somewhat different from our understanding of how to manage a relationship with China, and what we think they would like to do. They should do vis-a-vis China. Now, my understanding is COVID has given us a special opportunity. We are the biggest and most reliable supplier of vaccines. Nepal is bound to need it. Let me also make another point related to the corona pandemic. This is bound to affect remittances to Nepal, which has been one of the hallmarks of the, let me say, enhanced options for Nepal in the world, and in terms of the growth that its economy saw in the last few years. Now, India is the country with whom they have the best economic ties and automatic into the Indian economy. And this is something which they, as India will grow, as we will come out of the economic depression of the last year, they have the best advantage to be able to take advantage of it. So there is an opportunity. Again, going back to what Professor Saab and General Saab were saying, look, practical realities on their part to dictate that they have a relationship with us which they can leverage for their people.
Right.
The domestic political environment in Nepal has always been a bit of a topsy-turvy thing. It's a place where democracy, although elements of it started in the late 1940s, much of it has come through in the 1990s, and a settlement and a stability is still a far cry. So this particular game of domestic politics will continue, but India is the country which not only gave them, in a sense, the impetus for democracy, gave them the ideas of democracy. Both the Communist Party and the Nepali Congress were founded in India. But the fact is that our economy, our society, what gives them a kind of cushion, a particular relationship which they can leverage for themselves. And I hope to see that this relationship is leveraged by them to their benefits, to our benefits, and let me say to global good.
Major General Suvash, do you agree with Ambassador Puri?
I'm absolutely correct. Ambassador Puri is bang on the target, and no doubt. See, 2-3 other issues which stand out as far as India-Nepal relation is concerned. Last election which was fought on the two principles. One was the national favor and another was anti-India sentiment. That is where we are lacking it. We have to improve that anti-India sentiment should not be there in Nepal. And we are now done very matured action. Today, the Chinese are, which are hated maximum in Nepal. They are feeling the Chinese are trying to interfere the internal politics of Nepal. As far as India is concerned, we played a very matured role. And they are now thinking and changing their stance that India do not interfere in basic domestic politics of Nepal. And now remember, China in a big way has come in Nepal, that today what they are doing is the way they have invested in checkbook diplomacy. And what will happen is that Nepal is going to be in a debt trap in time to come. This is not a good sign for India. Remember, 2-3 things are happening. As far as China is concerned, they are coming in a big way. Second thing is the Mandarin language is being taught there in Nepal. Third thing is that though it is slightly out of this thing, ISI has made a lot of, you can say inroad in Nepal, with point have been already conveyed, I'm sure, by our foreign minister, that the madrasas are mushrooming on Tarai region, and ISI has the strongest hold in Nepal. Now, that is a cause of concern as far as India is concerned. Now, another issue which is there is we as a nation should remember that we have to handle Nepal, the government of the day, not the one, and we must maintain good relation with every stakeholders in Nepal, and we must not have a people-to-people contact. My point is we should not be seen to be very close to KP Sharma only. KP Sharma only and India having relation is incidental because today he is the Prime Minister. This point has to be conveyed. Our relationship are from people to people, and whosoever is the government of the day, we should ready to deal with it. We should not interfere in their internal politics. That should be loud and clear. It doesn't pay off. Two things which we are very important, which we need to do is, however, we need to resolve this, border issue which has just crept in and spoiled our relationship in time to come. And second thing is Indo-Nepal 1950 Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Nepal is thinking that the treaty is outdated. It needs a change. And already there is a, eminent people group was there, which was ordered in 2016. It has given the report in 2018. But that has not been made public, neither it is being implemented. There we have to see it, because we have to be realistic with Nepal. Nepal has got its own aspiration. China is coming in a big way. If we want, the Nepal must maintain a very good relation with India. We have to make some changes, even in 1950, the Peace and Friendship Treaty. And also, third point is, whatever we make, whatever we do in Nepal must be done in time, and the quality has to be assured, and look after the interest of the people of Nepal. Another issue which I want to just convey is the military-to-military relationship between Nepal and India is of a very important. 40,000 Nepalese soldiers are serving in India, and they are the backbone of Indian Army. We are proud of that. And let us maintain that in time to come. This will make sure that the relationship between India and Nepal remain the best of it in time to come.
All right, sir. I'd like to also touch upon a very important aspect, which is of economic ties. Professor Singh, India is Nepal's largest trading partner, one of the largest investors, and the largest source for inbound tourism. India is the major transit route for Nepal's trade overseas through Kolkata and Visakhapatnam ports. Ways to further deepen the trade and economic ties with Nepal?
I think it's important to understand that historically, India has been the closest, most engaged country vis-a-vis Nepal. There is no doubt about it. But if you notice the change that General Sheva has also underlined, the way Chinese have engaged Nepal lately, not India, it is China today, which is the largest investing country in Nepal on annual basis. If you look at cumulative investments, because India has been engaged with Nepal since the very beginning of India's independence, India, of course, remains the largest investor cumulatively. Same is tourism. China today has emerged as the third largest tourism supplier to Nepal. So the numbers are growing very fast. So to me, China's engagement remains a fact. And I wouldn't kind of rule that out simply because parliament is dissolved. P. Sharma Oli is the most pro-Beijing leader in Nepal, and he's still the caretaker prime minister there.
Yes.
And so is his cabinet ministers that we see. But we understand that India definitely should not, will not, and is not trying to compete with China. India has its own linkages, its own leverages that India has. And in a pandemic situation, clearly, as is brought out in this discussion, advantage India is so much more visible, but that does not mean that Nepal is not communicating with the Chinese. The question was pointedly asked in Delhi yesterday to the foreign minister, Pradeep Gyawali, and he said they are trying to talk to all the countries. When question was asked, are you also asking for pandemic relief and vaccines from China? He said, we are talking to all friendly countries. And that is a clear sign that Nepal has increasingly tried to equate and create an equilibrium between relationship with Beijing and New Delhi. And I think that change must be clearly understood by us and should not be negated in terms of being overconfident of India's engagement with Nepal. We have our own advantages, but China's advantages have grown. And as General Sevas just mentioned, in a decade, if supposing that Trans-Himalayan multimodal corridor becomes a reality, then China would start really, even becoming much stronger player in Nepal than India is at this stage. And we saw how they had sent a very high-level delegation to resolve even the political crisis in Kathmandu recently. Of course, that delegation couldn't achieve its results. That's a separate matter. But I think India has a clear advantage today in addressing Nepal's crisis as far as pandemic is concerned. And that advantage, India will go a long way in strengthening that relationship that India has had beyond the transit facilities, trade facilities, and porous borders and employment and contribution of Gurkha Rifles to Indian Army. Those are traditional issues.
Yes.
Pandemic provides an entirely new advantage in India, and I think that needs to be really harnessed as much as possible.
And as you said, that we have to adopt a very practical approach. But before we end this conversation, closing comments from all my guests. Major General Sivaj, place of Nepal in India's neighborhood first policy. 30 seconds to you, sir.
As far as Nepal is concerned, it is one of the very important neighbor as far as India is concerned. Remember that it is a buffer state between China and India, and it is very important that our security concerns are maintained by Nepal. And it should understand that 1950 treaty had that provision that anything which you are doing it which is not which is against our interest must be communicated to us well in time. No, to me it looks like that Nepal will do what is suiting its national interest. There is no doubt, but they must be also made aware of our red lines. We must look after Nepal. We must invest in Nepal. We are the one which are the largest trade partner. 1/3 of FDI, 2/3 of a trade service, and
Yes.
70 lakhs Nepalese are working in India, almost 1/4 of their population. $8.5 billion is a remittance of pay and allowances which are going to Nepal. So Nepal is totally dependent on India, and India is also dependent in Nepal. We are saying it is a mutual relationship. It is a relationship of two equal nations. We are not trying to pose anything on Nepal, but Nepal must also understand there are certain red lines
Right.
as far as India is concerned, especially when they are dealing with China, and they should understand that China is not a friend of anyone. China in a long term put you in a debt trap. They must understand what happened in Hambantota in Sri Lanka, what happened in Malaysia, what happened in Maldives. We can only just give them a sort of a sign that they
Right,
have to
sir.
understand. But India-Nepal relationship are there to grow from strength to strength in time to come.
Ambassador Puri, closing comments.
Priti, I am very clear in my mind. Nepal's greatest asset is the friendship of the people of India. And in whatever conversations I have with their people, I always try and underline this to them. Nepal is a sovereign country. They're very proud of their sovereignty and their independence. They will certainly play a certain amount of games, if you may use this kind of an expression. China is an immediate neighbor. They will certainly try to leverage this. But we have a great deal of opportunities, and these are opportunities which come automatically to Nepal as a result of the 1950 treaty and as a result of geography more than anything else. Nepal is, after all, a part of South Asia. And for Nepal to grow, to become a middle-income country, as is their set goal, India is, without any doubt, that economy to which they can turn to, which they can plug into and take advantage. This dovetails very well with our own ambitions of becoming a $5 trillion economy in the coming years. So
Right,
it's
sir.
a win-win situation, but one which demands constant engagement by Nepal and certainly by India, because it is very important for us. Not just it has been, but it will be in the future too.
Right, sir. So it will be a win-win situation for both India and Nepal. Professor Singh, last 30 seconds to you for the closing comments.
Thank you. India has a great advantage of being the largest producer of vaccines, and I think that is the leverage India should use vis-a-vis Nepal, even when there are many countries today trying to ask India to supply vaccines. But in the long run, I think we have to look at the fact that aspiring young population in Nepal has been encouraged and become confident because of engagement with China. 2016 Eminent Persons Group had given a report, and I think there is enormous demand that we need to really relook at the 1950 Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation. India has to really address that issue also in the long run. But immediately, I think India should prioritize Nepal in using that leverage that we have in providing vaccine to really bring Nepal back to a close relationship with India.
All right, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. As close neighbors, India and Nepal share a unique relationship of friendship and cooperation characterized by open borders and deep-rooted people-to-people contacts. That's all we had for you in this edition of India's World. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha TV.